Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Heartland Mamas. I'm Marie Brio.
And I'm Heidi Henry coming to you from two socially distant studios at the edge of the Great Red Divide every Tuesday and Thursday, usually at 3 p.m., but today we're going early. We bring you progressive news and views that you can use to help you keep you informed about what's going on in this country. You can find all of our previous works at Heartland Mamas, MAMAS.com, all podcast streaming platforms, YouTube, and probably part of the Demcast USA network. So today we're coming to you early because today is Impeachment Day Part 2 for
And I'm
DJT,
having a
whose
root
name I
canal
try
at our
not to
usually
say.
scheduled time. Just so everybody knows.
Okay.
Yeah, I get to go have a root canal and a partial crown, and we had to do the show early because we couldn't let our audience down. And I don't know if I'll be able to speak until Thursday. So if on Thursday you see me, it's going to be a long one. So fingers crossed, guys. Send me
Oh,
some love that it's all going to work out. So Heidi was generous and kind enough to switch our recording time, and thank you for tuning in. But today we really do want to talk to you about the impeachment. And we know it's everywhere. We know that's all anybody is talking about. But we
yeah.
felt we should really let you see just sort of a nice wrap up and where the mama's heads are on this.
Yeah.
We talk about the significance of impeachment, and I think that tends to get lost, Heidi, in all of the hoopla and the procedural arguments and
Right.
the division and the hatred, right? All this
Yep.
crap that's going on, and it boils down to, in my mind, that this is the ultimate test of our Constitution. I mean, we know that the founding fathers probably would not have been real psyched about this whole affair, about being able to let a president off the hook when he leaves. But
Nope.
more importantly, it's challenging, that the defense attorneys have claimed his First Amendment rights, and they're
Yeah.
challenging multiple parts of the Constitution in ways that it was never intended to.
No.
But the bad part about this is that it is giving those Republican senators an opportunity to deny what they saw, what they experienced, based
I think,
on the
yeah.
Constitution.
I think that is the most troubling thing is how could you watch the culmination of the rhetoric that we've had to endure since 2015? How could you watch what happened January 6th, 2021, and not be outraged, Republicans? I mean, how can you let this one go? You were outraged at Clinton, the last person that was not the last, yeah, the last person that was impeached before Trump, for being a dog, a dirty dog that he's always been. But when somebody tries to overturn democracy, you want to look the other way. You can't yell fire in a crowded movie theater. That's not your First Amendment right. And for Donald Trump to say, I'm going to walk with you down to the Capitol, and admittedly, in his diatribe, he did say, and peacefully protest, wink, wink, because he told them then to fight like hell. So what is
I
the
think they said that
message?
I think the
What
New
is
York
the
Times
message?
reporting, or the Washington Post reported that during his Capitol prior Capitol insurrection speech, he used the phrase or term fight like hell 37
Yep,
times and one do it
37
peacefully.
times. Right. So 37 to 1, burn the place to the ground, and do it peacefully. I mean, come on. But,
You know,
Murray, we have been hearing this diatribe when he was going up against Hillary Clinton in 2015, when it was becoming apparent in 2016 that was the two that were going to face off, was Clinton and Trump. And he was calling for, a dirty election then, a corrupt election then. And because he didn't think he would win, nobody thought he would win. And he didn't win the popular vote. I mean, he lost the popular vote by 3-4 million. And then we come into this one, and back over the summer, remember he started stirring that up again about the mail-in votes. Now we're in the middle of a pandemic, so we had to think outside the box to get a free and fair election, right? And we do elections really, really well in the United States. We have very few incidences of voter fraud, very few. And the ones that they were able to dig up were almost all Republican voter fraud issues after this election in 2020 that we're talking about. But, you know, when in June or July, when he started stirring up the questions about the mail-in votes, and he votes by mail-in vote. My dad voted in World War II via mail-in vote because he was in the South Pacific. Your dad probably too. I know my father-in-law also voted by mail from the South Pacific. And those votes took almost I think it was like 3 months to get there. And if there was a chance for somebody to subvert the election then, that would have been it. But no, we were going straight ahead. This is something we've always done. And for him to suddenly try to throw shade on something that he does himself was absolutely ridiculous. But at the same time, Murray, we talked in pre-show about the populist message. When people feel oppressed and downtrodden and that things aren't going well for them, and we're in the middle of a pandemic, so of course the populist message becomes a conspiracy theory, which gives us the QAnon chicken and egg sort of thing. You have people just ripe for this type of subversion to sink in and stay, right? Things aren't going well. So many people are unemployed. People are able to access in the moment, in the very minute, a conspiracy theory via social media. And the president's message that we're going to have a corrupt election. It's not going to be fair. If I don't win, it's because somebody screwed it up and somebody stole it. So he keeps whipping the crowd up and whipping his voters up and whipping his supporters up. And we see this going on and on and on, even to the point where they asked him, I think it was Mike Wallace. Was it Mike Wallace that asked him, will you agree to a peaceful transference of power during one of the debates? And Trump could not commit then to the peaceful transference of power, and we hadn't even had an election yet.
Yeah, well, we know he never planned on it. He never planned on losing.
No!
And we've talked about whether that was insulating him from the facts or the bubble that he was in or his hubris. None of that really matters. Why he had the belief that he did. But you're right. He laid the groundwork since 2005. He laid the groundwork over the summer. He went so far as to install a postmaster general to slow down mail-in voting. So, most of the country sees these facts and this logic. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they believe it. And you touched a little bit on the populist message. And you're right. Democracies typically fall because of populist messages. When people, but we're going to do a special show on the populist message and populism in general and the true danger that it presents.
Yep.
But even aside from that, it's about the other, right? So Donald Trump is a master of the other. He othered the hordes of caravanning immigrants coming to our border. He others everyone. And he doesn't care about anything but himself. And so he's othered the government, the own government with which he was leading at the time. He othered his own institution. And that's a big part of the populist message. Finding an enemy, othering the government. And he was the government and he was still othering it. That's one of the reasons that they talk about the First Amendment article as being bunk. Oh, yeah, the argument about his First Amendment rights, because he is saying, his lawyers are saying that it was his First Amendment right to say those things and have this rally, but you don't get to pick and choose as an elected official when you're a candidate and when you're an elected official. And by standing there as the president employed by the federal government, that crossed the line. That broke any personal protections he might have had because he was a government representative. And I think the Republicans are going to use examples like, I think they're going to say, or I don't know. I'm curious to see whether they're going to which side is going to bring up and use the opportunistic folks who claimed the president told them to do it, who've been
Well,
caught.
because we've seen the hundreds and hundreds of people that have been arrested so far, and some are completely unrepentant, and others are like, "What the heck? I just did what I was told." He told me that we're going to march down to the Capitol, that we're going to march down, and I'll be there with you. He promised them that, and of course, then he didn't. Then he just went and watched them do it on TV, and then remarked about how poor they looked.
The
Even though we
defense
know,
also claimed that he was very concerned about the violence and called
really,
for peace
really,
twice and deployed
uh,
assistance, which we know that is absolute crap. Lindsey Graham himself called Donald John Trump, called Mark Meadows, and said, "You have to do something. Help us call them off." And he did nothing.
yeah.
And, we forget that. And so these Republican senators, some who even called begging for help and didn't get it, are still following him.
I don't know what Donald Trump has on Lindsey Graham, and one day we'll find out. For him to just get in line over and over again about, following Trump around so close that his nose is orange. But, I can't get over the fact that we know now. We know that the Capitol Police were unarmed and unprepared deliberately, and they were instructed not to touch,
Well, there you go. There's
interact
another
with.
there's another point
Yeah.
to this argument, is that someone who was appointed by the president. Now, the president didn't do this. There's no proof he said anything, but someone who was appointed
Yeah.
by the president in a last-ditch effort put out
To
an
subvert
order
democracy.
denying assistance from the National Guard for this rally that they had.
Yeah.
Remember, the permit alone was not to walk to the Capitol. The permit was strictly for the rally. So,
Yep.
someone went through and specifically, now, then you have to bring the case and prove that he was the one that, I know. We all know he did, but, the proof line would be a little sketchy on that.
Well,
I just,
Donald Trump has lived his life covering his tracks and couching his words so he can get away with stuff. In fact, we're watching this unfold at Mar-a-Lago right now, right? Because he told them he would never live there full time, and yet there he is, because the guy can't ever open his mouth without a lie coming out. And so now he's lying to the people of Palm Beach, Florida, and living there full time. And and he's upset because they took away his helicopter pad, which they only allowed him to have when he was president. Now they have to remove it. And in order to come up to the impeachment trial, he's demanding the use of Air Force One. God, who votes for this clown? I mean, really,
I really think
you really
that him
have
being
to.
at the impeachment trial is probably not a good thing. I think that if we're talking about inciting crap and going nuts, that, the impeachment, having him there is probably a bad idea.
How many lawyers has he gone through now, Marie? Because
I don't know, a lot.
yeah, a lot. Because nobody wants to represent him, and he wanted his original team
To
said,
say the election
"We're
was
out."
stolen.
Yeah, right. So he's like, I need you to double and triple down on this in a court of law and lie, because it'll mean your disbarment, but it'll shine a good light on me. It's like, people are not falling for this anymore, and
Well, they are. I mean,
the
you're
other
right.
thing-
The polls do show
No.
that he has dropped in popularity among Republican voters. There are two polls. The most recent one, I believe, was a Quinnipiac poll from yesterday that showed his support has dropped 20% overall, which is fantastic as far as that goes. But those who are his supporters are the ones that are taking this populist message. They're the ones who are the radicals, who are those that believe the big lie. And
yeah, and the
Go ahead.
QAnon, who helped drive this. I mean, and he used them over that 77-day span between the election. I mean, think about election night. About 2 o'clock in the morning, he gets up and declares himself the winner, even though he's not winning. He sees his lead slipping away. It's like, well, I got to stop that and tell everybody I won, and I won bigly, when he was losing and losing bigly by election night, right? So he was setting that framework then. And if I don't win bigly, then the election was stolen. He was starting the verbiage for Stop the Steal on election night about 2:30 in the morning, so it was actually the next day. But he ramps up and fed into the QAnon, I almost said a cuss word, baloney, so that to stir up his base, right? So you've got the people invading the Capitol, some of which were not affiliated with anything. They're just Trump sycophants. And then you've got the Proud Boys that were there incognito, so they weren't allowed to wear their colors that day because he'd already told them to stand back and stand by, right? Stand ready, be ready, Proud Boys. He called to them in the debate, to be ready, and he didn't denounce them. So he has them standing by, right? So when their leadership told them to be at the Capitol insurrection on the 6th of January, but don't wear your colors. We don't want to be easily identifiable because we want to throw the shade at Antifa, which doesn't even exist. And then you had in that group the Oath Keepers, the 3%ers, the QAnon, and you have all these other people that aren't really affiliated with them, but they follow them on social media. So they all knew what was going on. And we talked a couple days ago, last week, about the bus trip that went all across America to garner support 22 days before, to get people to the ellipse for this. Come to the rally. And he wanted it to be the Trump rally to end all rallies, with the intent, Murray, of subverting democracy and overthrowing the government.
There isn't a doubt in my mind
that
absolutely. But the real question becomes, how is that light brought to the American people? And what happens with this trial has massive repercussions and implications for, like we said, our Constitution,
forever.
The office of the presidency. We already knew we had huge structural change that needs to occur in our government.
Yeah.
I mean, on every level, we have huge structural change that needs to occur. And this the outcome of this could be devastating.
Yes.
For future presidents. I mean, we see what happens in history. You were talking about history and repeating it. Anytime we set a precedent, that precedent gets pushed, and it gets pushed. And we saw that with the powers of the president due to the Senate's blocking and the expansion of executive orders. We've seen that in all aspects of how our government, which was originally designed to function in one capacity, has been stretched to its outer limits. And I think beyond the constitutionality, this really also is a chance to set limits on the president. What part of the problem we have is that we revere, or representatives, senators, president are put on such a pedestal, in such a revered post, that no one pushes back because they're the president, right? The highest leader, the most powerful person. Right. And while that may have worked back a long time ago, that's not how things should work in this day and age.
Yeah, when your oath of office meant something before Donald Trump, because Trump found and exploited every hole, every wormhole, every slithering spot in our U.S. Constitution and in our law, and exploited it to the point where he has entered us into a second civil war. And I know we talked about that in pre-show. You are not sure that we're there. I know that we're there. We are right in the middle of a second civil war. And we haven't had the bloodshed like we did in the first one, but we are seeing it unfold. And as Mitch McConnell has said, our democracy is in a death spiral, and it depends on the outcome of this trial if we convict or don't convict the modern day Hitler.
I still think it's so funny that we convicted and impeached Bill Clinton not for the blowjob, but for lying to Congress.
For lying.
For
Yeah,
lying.
we can't even. We all know Trump
Where this
lies. Like,
president has spoken maybe 10 words that are truthful in the last 5 years,
yep.
and we refuse to impeach him based on his lies. So there's such a double standard. And Heidi, this brings us back to where the frick do we go? How are they going to go? I mean, we have to think about this and say, we know this is like the crucial point of our republic. We know that our Constitution's on trial. We know the office of president is on trial. But you know what else is on trial here?
What's that?
Is the division, the hatred, the polarization of political parties is on trial here.
Oh, yeah.
Because
John Boehner.
if you can look, if those senators, out of fear, cowardice, malice, hatred for the Democratic Party, or whatever it is, can honestly say that this president didn't do anything wrong, that is far more terrifying to me than any of the damage that can be done, because that means that there is no hope, that we will not repair, and that you are right. We will be two countries. The Civil War will be full blown. To know that we have leaders. Okay, Marjorie Greene, we've talked about her. She's a nutter. We know we get your occasional crazies and radicals in the House. That happens.
Yep.
But to know that the governing body, those that are supposed to be in one party, are willing to overlook, to forgive, to ignore what is blatant and horrific to me, means that the soul of our nation is not there. I don't know.
Well, I think all of us had hoped that the election would put an end to it. But really, we need to impeach and convict and prevent him from running for office again. Even if it's symbolic, because he's an old fat man that's not in good health. I don't care what his fake doctor says.
Agreed. I doubt he'll make it to the next presidential run. I'm not real worried about that. But what I am worried about is who he leaves as his legacy. Who he leaves with this populist message. Who he crowns as he's on his deathbed. Who's the next to take his place, to carry that mythology.
You see this with Hawley from Missouri, who wants to be the next MAGA man. Josh Hawley wants to be the next MAGA man. But you also have Ivanka and Jared. You have Mark Meadows. You have Kevin McCarthy. You have Junior. You have Eric
Matt
Trump.
Gaetz.
Matt Gaetz. Oh, God, Matt Gaetz. Can you imagine him being in charge of the country? His drunken car ride, he's going to steer us right off the bridge.
I would be terrified.
I mean, oh, God. See, ladies and gentlemen, this is the problem. If we don't do this and do not get it right, we are sentenced. We have torn our country and our Constitution in two, and we put the Matt Gaetz and the Josh Hawleys and the Marjorie Taylor Greenes and the Lauren Boeberts, all of those people, the Rand Paul and whatever the fudge is on his head, are the people who are in charge of our democracy, that will lie, cheat, and steal in the name of their orange overlord, and don't think that lying is a problem. I can't even imagine, Murray, that after all of this, all of what the rhetoric that drove the forces to take over our citadel on January 6th of this year, and the fact that we're in court right now, in the court of law with the impeachment trial, the fact that we're there right now and that people are still backing that. Murray, I'm just so
It makes you
stunned.
sick to it makes you sick to your stomach, but
Yeah.
we hope, okay, there needs to be 17 Republican senators that will vote to impeach him. I do not see that happening. I would hope that it would happen. I would hope maybe there's some sort of epiphany that
Yeah.
occurs, but I don't think that that is going to happen. And the outcome after that is what we're really going to have to watch. And
Yeah.
we're gonna have to try to strive to not allow those things to occur, which we think will
Yeah.
probably happen. So thanks, folks. We have dialed in and talked to you a little bit about the impeachment and why, nonpartisanly. Okay, I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. You should give a crap about the rule of law, and you should care that the person who is guiding our nation took it upon himself to cite an insurrection. And even if you don't think he did anything wrong, please think about the implications of what this means for the future.
He wanted to overthrow our government. He wanted to
His own
overthrow
government. He was still
200.
empowered. That's what I just
I know.
blows my
He
mind.
wanted
How do you stage
245
a
years.
coup against your own government? That's so
Right.
weird. I'm sorry. Logically, it doesn't make any sense. But we know, folks, this is probably, we will be doing another impeachment show as the trial goes on. But we are also going to delve into some things about populism. And we are going to be doing a
Yeah.
special on right wing activism in law
Law
enforcement. So tune in on Tuesdays and Thursdays live. Hopefully, the next time you see me, my face won't be swollen out to here. Fingers crossed. Thanks for tuning in early today, guys. You can find all of our previous episodes at Heartland Mamas.
MAMAS.com on all podcast platforms. YouTube to see Murray's silly faces and me waving my arms around and what am I drinking today? And
Blood of
probably
our
part of the Demcast.
enemies. No, I'm kidding.
It's
Mitch
raspberry herbal
McConnell
tea.
would be in that cup, like hardcore. Mitch would be in that cup for sure.
I
Like if it
still
was
would
blood of
never drink that.
enemies, I think that's who my enemy would be. Yeah. All right, folks. Well, thanks again. Thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Bye bye.
See you later, everybody. Take care. Bye bye.